RHJunior, reality check, coming to you live over the internet, on the YouTube, that system of tubes and wires that we call the internet, to bring you another broadcast hour of my online, intermittent, irregular, spasmodic joke of a program, Spleen Squeezins. Yeah! A shooby dooby dooby. Oh yeah, we're rocking, we're live. We're turning down the music so that you can hear my voice. Yay. How y'all doing? I'm just pushing lots of little buttons and stuff, getting everything rolling here. Got a few things to talk about. Got a new comic up. It's just tally ho, but just so you know, it's there. It's there. It's there. You can read it for all of 10 seconds, and everybody goes yay. I'll be working on a few things. I'll try and get some more commissions done. I also finished up the commission for Daniel Maher for his next page of brain just skipped a groove for the old Vic. So there you have it. There you have that there. Let's see here. I'm pushing a few buttons here, getting this, letting everybody know. Don't know how long I'm going to be online. Don't know. Tell you the truth. I spent this last week completely off the rails. I will not lie. I just basically vanished. Feels like. Got kind of obsessed with my online lots in my I play the online game free to play called WildStar. Download it, play it. It's a load of fun. It's a sci-fi western style. I don't know why they call it western. It's a sci-fi, frontier, space setting. The hero, the exile, the rebellious exiles versus the Empire of the Dominion, and it's got a brilliant, it's a load of fun to play, and it's got a brilliant sense of humor, great art, and it has a lot of interesting features. One of those things is that each of your characters, once your character reaches level 14, they get their own plot of land that they can build on in just about any way they want. and there, you can spend the coins you earn in the game on decor, and I really I was strung out. I don't know what to say, but I spent the last couple of days just I've got currently 3 level 50 characters, and a couple others that are hitting the 30s right now. So I've been building, and once you get started, it's very addictive. I have seen absolutely extraordinary. The stuff I've been doing is a load of fun. It's awesome. It's a load of fun, and but the stuff I have built on my little lots of land, is nothing compared to some of the stuff that the older players, the players have been there longer, and there are other players on there that just mind-boggling the things they have created. And that they are still creating. I have seen housing that I've seen them take that lot of land and turn it into a small city. I've seen them turn it into a battleship. An entire starship. Like the Battlestar Galactica almost. And I've seen them turn it into an arboreal forest and surreal sculptures. It's amazing what It's amazing what creativity will be released when you give people even the most simple of tools. And sometimes it's a tragedy to realize that if humanity had not fallen, what we might have been, what we might have been, and it leaves you to wonder what we still might be when the end of days comes. But I might go online. I might show you stuff later, because I'm an installable shop. I'm constantly begging people to come by and take a looky loo. Okay, I'm live, so why am I not showing any screen? Oh, there we go. Uh, I've had a lot of things on my mind lately. Had a lot of things on my mind, and I'm a little strung out from it. Had something of a kind of an awful epiphany about the state of our country and the state affairs that we are facing, and some rather awful, some scales fell away from my eyes. I have to put it that way, because it's a really awful realization. Okay. Now I'm going to hold off on describing anything until somebody. I tend to wait for an audience. I tend to wait for an audience. I don't know if I'm really, there's like a dozen buttons here, and I'm not sure whether I'm actually helping with anything. But I generally only put up notices on Twitter and Facebook. don't know why I'm doing this. Okay, it's kind of quiet. I haven't got anybody to talk to. I haven't got anybody here to talk to. I haven't got anybody out there watching the show to talk to. So it's I kind of find myself debating the utility of continuing to talk right now. Okay. But let's see. Okay, let's might as well start off by giving you a quick synopsis of the things I'm going to be talking about today. First of all, I want to examine the concept that we're having right now that our society has become, as it has become less concerned, as it has become less concerned with uh, certain things, we have become obsessed as a society with contamination, with corruption. Or perhaps contamination is the better of the two words. We are fearful of contamination to the point of an irrational phobia. And I can point to you examples throughout our culture how this is demonstrating itself and how it is affecting us as a culture and as a nation, and how it is costing us. And speaking briefly, it's notable. Even a theologian, a Christian theologian, would argue that this is because we have become indifferent overall. We become more and more callous to the issue of spiritual and emotional and moral corruption. So we have counterbalanced by becoming more obsessed with physical corruption. As my father used to note, uh, we'd be driving from church and he'd see some guy, we'd be back and he'd say they were out there fanatically, religiously jogging every day, even on Sunday. And he noted that these people are so concerned about their physical health that they don't give a flip about their spiritual health. Uh, well, there you have it. People who will spend an hour or 2 or 3 hours a day exercising 7 days a week, but they won't sit down in a church or read the Bible or fellowship with other Christians or any of the other things that are required for spiritual growth and strength. That's one of the philosophical spiritual arguments of the matter. But I don't want to simplify matters. I don't want to oversimplify the concept, because let's address the point that may be an aspect of what's going on in our society, what I'm talking about, this phenomenon, but it's not the only contributing factor. Or rather, as the commercial goes, it's this or it's that or it's that, or that says, why not both? uh, that's one of the things. That's one of the things about that a lot of Christian thinkers, they tend to. I've noticed they tend to make every answer the same answer, even when the answer that they use isn't quite applicable. They tend to, no matter what's wrong with society, no matter what problem in life or society we're talking about, Christian theologians have this uh, impulse to say it's because it's because you need to get right with Jesus. You know, every problem, civil, social, whatever. Uh, the answer is always, you have to get, we need to get right with Jesus. That's what's wrong with society today. Which, while technically true, is neither comprehensive nor helpful. Like the old joke, a man flying in a hot air balloon, he loses control. The balloon breaks its tether before the pilot can get aboard, and he's floating adrift over a lake. And he looks down, and there's a guy floating in a boat, and he yells over the side, I'm lost, I've lost control of this thing, I don't know where I am. Can you tell me where I am? And the guy looks up out of his fishing boat and goes, you're in a balloon over a lake. Which, while technically true, does not really help anybody address the problem. Okay, now getting back to the point, the topic I'm talking about is our society's fear of contamination. Now, I would argue, yes, we have become, as a whole, less concerned about spiritual, emotional, or moral contamination. We have become a very decadent society. We haven't got, most of us, let's be honest here. If it weren't for modern communication, the shenanigans that people got up to over in, say, Berkeley, California, or the freakishness that we see in various, that would be a whole other world away. It would be another world. We would not be, we would not be concerned with it. It would not be involved with us. We would be aware that, we might hear about it, by word of mouth, but we wouldn't be so intimately mentally connected to it. But because of our age of information and communication, uh, we're sort of operating under the delusion that people who literally live further away from us than in the old world that would have been regarded as living on a dozen countries away are are all under one roof with us, metaphorically speaking. So, generally speaking, I think our society, our country as a whole, has gotten. We've become very decadent. We're not a scratch on some of the empires and nations of the past. Man, if you knew what the Romans and the Greeks got up to, you just purge right there. But blaming blaming our fear of contamination on that is very oversimplistic. Now, what I mean by contamination is, think about it. Of all the things we are not afraid of moral contamination. We are not afraid of terror. We are not afraid of 1,000 real threats to our life, to our way of life. We are not afraid of crooked politicians. We are not afraid of corruption in our government. We're not afraid of terrorists arming themselves for war against us. We're not afraid of jihadists infiltrating our country. We are not afraid of a literal army crossing our southern border, a literal army of criminals crossing our southern border every day. I hate to break it to you, but for most of history, when 10,000 people crossed your border in a single day, that was a sign you were being invaded by an army. We should have marched into Mexico when that crap started, shot their president, and announced to them the glorious news that they were the new 51st state. That's what would have happened 200-300 years ago. But call me an extremist. But anyway, we are not scared of legitimate threats. What are we scared of? What are we scared of? Chickenpox. Chickenpox. Think about that. Now, there was a day and age where we had a legitimate reason to be fearful to not be vaccinated, that our children were not properly or safely vaccinated. Polio. Now, that was a disease to be scared of. That was a serious disease to be scared of. And thank you, Jesus, for the man who invented the polio vaccine. I was unaware. I was always under the impression that polio vaccine, that we wiped out polio. We did in this country. There's still outbreaks of polio all over the world. They don't tell you that. The emphasis, they try and claim that polio has been wiped out. It's not. They're still giving out the vaccinations to this day. But millions have survived. That should not. But what are we afraid? We are so fearful of germs that these parents, legitimately, sensibly concerned parents, are going, you're turning my kid into a pincushion here. I haven't even heard of some of the things you're vaccinating him against. You've given him 20 injections before he's 2 years old. What are all these things for? And they're going, chickenpox? Chickenpox, that's nothing. And this is God's honest truth. No, chickenpox is not a plague or an epidemic. It is not a deadly threat, unless you are living in just absolutely vile conditions. but we are terrified. And if you suggest that maybe we are over vaccinating and that there might be serious negative consequences to the health of individuals and to the long-term health of individuals and the long-term health of other people of the nation and of the population as a whole. If you try and suggest that, they act like you want to bring back malaria. Seriously, they act like they treat you they treat you like a pariah. Oh yeah, I'm like, yes, get your child vaccinated against smallpox and polio and these deadly killer diseases that are out there and that are still waiting. But I'm sorry, we are vaccinating our children for chickenpox. We are out there vaccinating for things that consist for look, diseases that mean nothing to a person who lives in basic sanitary conditions with decent nutrition. That's the reason that the deaths from measles and chickenpox literally fell to lower than the deaths caused by bad vaccines. In fact, the rate of mortality for chickenpox fell to pretty much mathematically zero in the United States before the chickenpox vaccine was invented. These vaccine fanatics are blowing it out their ass. But if you point out these facts, you trigger their germophobia, and they go into hysterics. And we're not just talking vaccines. Think about organic foods. What is the real reason behind organic food? The pathological fear of being corrupted or contaminated. That's what it is. It's these people that buy organic foods. They are under the illusion it will be contaminated. If they get regular food at a regular grocery, they'll be contaminated with bug spray and pesticides and insecticides and weed killer and they're terrified of that. They are more terrified of that than they are of starving to death. Just contemplate that. The people in Monsanto has been providing genetically modified crop seeds for most of the world for ages. And I don't know all the facts. I don't know the science. I don't know if there is anything to the accusations that Monsanto has a dangerous monopoly. But you've got people who are absolutely terrified of genetically modified crops. Hello, I hate to break it to them, but decades before genetic engineering, they were already eating genetically modified crops. Every single crop grown by man is the product of years of centuries of selective breeding. The original tomato plant, the original tomato was only about the size of a cherry. Corn, the kind eaten on the cob, it used to come with a husk that grew around each kernel. Try imagine cooking that up and eating it. It's all it's. This is the reason these plants are domesticated. This is also the reason that they don't do too hot out in the wild. It's because they are the product of deliberate genetic engineering. Though we didn't know what to call it back then. That's what selective breeding is. Picking out certain traits and bringing them together. But you got people who are scared to death of getting the genetically modified foods, the GMO cooties. And in a previous, we were scared of the atomic cooties. We're scared to death of radiation still. That is due in part to misinformation by people in the government who were up to some shenanigans that they were caught at. There was a group of people. They were conducting experiments on the public at large in the United States. They were releasing radioactive materials into the environment. Radioactive iodine, for instance, into the air over several major cities. They wanted to study how it spread through the society. So they spread it, and they didn't think a thing of it. And when they got finally caught by somebody following the paper trail, they lied and claimed that they had only released a small percentage of what they had actually released on the environment. So people came to the conclusion that a teeny tiny amount of radiation would, give you cancer and genetic deformities, and basically give you, that a teeny tiny amount of radiation would give the atomic cooties to you. What they didn't know is that what most people don't know is that our natural environment is mildly radioactive. The background radiation in the middle of Yellowstone National Park is higher than that which is legally allowed in the control room of a nuclear power plant. And we need that radiation to be healthy. We need that low-level radiation in our environment to be healthy, because that constant low-level radiation helps our body by killing off weakened and damaged cells. Weakened and damaged cells that would otherwise metastasize into cancer. They found this out. They took several, they took lab animals and put them in an environment that was completely shielded and pure of all radioactive substance and all radiation. And well, obviously, you could see with daylight, but visible light, but no higher radiation than that. And these animals had a higher rate of cancer than those that were exposed to a regular environment. It's just one of the interesting things about life. But culturally, we are so scared of being contaminated. We don't want to be. Everything we eat has to be like whole foods, organically grown and non-GMO, and it's even in our popular culture. I pointed this out before. They've come out with a new, they've rebooted. The Japanese have rebooted Godzilla again. This time around, he's basically, well, there's no other way to put it. He's basically, the idea is that he arose from radioactive waste. They dump, they criticizing the Western world, dumping radioactive waste in the ocean, and all the little creatures in the in the ocean ate the radioactive waste and turned to goo, and the goo came together and grew into a giant tumor, which became Godzilla. That's it in a nutshell. He's basically Tumorzilla. He's a gigantic cyst, and he looks like a corpse. He does. The new Godzilla looks like a microwaved corpse. And the fear of they're trying to update, and they did this with other superheroes and villains and monsters. It used to be now the Incredible Hulk. Everybody knows the story of the Incredible Hulk. That he was Bruce Banner was exposed to a radiation blast from an atomic bomb, a gamma bomb, and he mutates now, and he turned into the Incredible Hulk. But they changed that because radiation wasn't scary enough anymore, and they rewrote it in the first movie they made for him, which really sucked. That movie was terrible. The first movie, they managed to throw in nanobots and genetic engineering on the side. Because the instead of being exposed to a bomb, Bruce Banner's it turns out that Bruce Banner's daddy genetically experimented on him when he was a baby, before he was born, and then at his own laboratory as an adult, he gets exposed to gamma radiation and to nanobots that they are experimenting with, and and then he turns into the Hulk, and it was terrible. In the new Marvel remake, the Incredible Hulk for the Avengers, uh, he was the product of a mix of radiation experimentation and the super serum for Captain America. Again, like I said, a fear of contamination. They've done this with several different characters, updated them. They have we have this. What did talk about the contamination phobia our society has? We have a fear of the invisible and the intangible. We are not scared. More the fools we. We're not scared of men with guns and bombs and fanatical dispositions who are standing there swearing to kill us and burn down our cities. We're terrified of invisible stuff in the air. We're terrified of it. Genetic engineering, we can't see it. It's too small to see, so we're scared spitless and scared stupid. Most of the genetic research and the medicines, the breakthroughs that have come from it, have been blocked by those in positions of power and influence because it scares them. They're ignorant about it. Got people who are scared of pesticides on their food. They're ignorant. They're scared. They're scared of genetic engineering in their potatoes and carrots, and they're scared of bug spray to keep the bugs off, and they're scared of germs and bacteria. We're all scared of all these invisible physical contaminants. We're running around. We're like school children running around with a pathological terminal phobia of a case of the cooties. What does this mean for our society? It means that, among other things, we spend a great deal of time struggling against the backwardness of our own society. Scientific progress that should have been out in the streets decades ago, uh, constantly delayed and obstructed by poorly informed, undereducated people who call themselves our leaders. Our, our society is, that's the thing of it. The people leading our society are almost as ignorant as the rioters running loose in its streets. That's a depressing reality to realize. And we're not scared of people with dangerous. We're scared of germs, but we're not scared of ideas that have killed more people than any bacteria. We are scared of we're scared of our food. We're scared of germs. What have been we've got terrorists blowing up buildings and beheading people and marching straight towards our country. And what is the news terrified about? Swine flu. Which infected what? A dozen people? Amen. Unseen threats are scary. That's one of the things that you have to deal with. But we should be working towards learning not to be afraid. We should be learning the difference between what is a real threat and what is illusory. This is real. Terrorism is a real threat. Fascism, our country being overtaken by people who want to turn us into 1930s Italy or Germany, that's real. That's happening now. That's a real threat. Bug spray on your apples, that's not a threat. That is a vanishing unlikelihood that it's going to actually hurt you. I saw the latest Bloom cap of Burke Breathed. Burke Breathed does not impress me very much with his political leanings. He does not in the least. He's a leftist. He's always been a leftist, and a prog, and he's foolish. He's a foolish old man. And in his latest comic strip arc, he's got his Penguin opus is. His lead character Opus, the Penguin, has decided. Oh well, I'm not just going. That's it. I'm not going to listen to the debates and the political anymore. La 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 la, and all his other politically motivated friends are all just yelling and screaming at him, but he's got earplugs in and he can't hear anything, and he's just so happy, and that's just pathetic. That is just pathetic. Look, you've heard the statement over and over again. All that is required for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. But for forget that. Just for anybody to do nothing. It depresses me how many people think that hearing the warning cries in our society and then stuffing your fingers in your ears makes you morally superior. Oh, well, I don't pay attention to politics. Politics are boring. This is why wicked, stupid people are running our country in the first place. Because you people like these can't be arsed to care. There are people out there who are not paying attention to Trump versus Hillary because it's boring, because it's stressful, because it bums them out. And they just don't want to think about it. Well, guess what? Being a free nation is an ongoing responsibility. You have an obligation to pay attention to the nation that you live in. You never hear conservatives say this kind of crap. Oh, just ignore it, it'll go away. This is basically what left-leaning people do when they start losing social argument. They say, oh, well, this is just so boring. Won't you all follow me and we'll just ignore it and go sit with our fingers in our ears and la 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 la. And they try to imply that, it's not about left or right. It's just that all these politics are just so boring. I had my mic up over my head here. I was chewing something. I was very angry about that. Whenever leftists start losing the social argument, their next step is to try and convince everybody to go off and just eat their cookies and drink their milk and not pay attention to all that nasty, boring, important political stuff. We've got people who are, we got people here who are trying to take over a country who think that it is, they're shameless. They're out there calling Donald Trump Hitler. That should have precluded. They shouldn't even be within 1,000 miles of a microphone now. They should have been left out of the room as being big, overgrown children. Donald Trump is Hitler. Donald Trump is Hitler. No adult would tolerate. No adult should tolerate the people who are out there calling Donald Trump Hitler. Isn't it amazing how nobody noticed that Trump was allegedly racist until he started running for president against Hillary? The man hires both genders, all minorities. He hangs out with black people all the time. He works with them. And he has for decades. The man has his flaws, but racist is not one of them. And neither is socialist. He's a businessman. He's not stupid. Let's go over this. Here, let me give you an example. What is this? Let's see here. Look, everybody is calling Trump Hitler, accusing him of being a Nazi. People are stupid. They don't know what a Nazi is. All people know about Nazis is that they hated the Jews. The Jewish issue was a side issue for the Nazis. The reason that they even bothered with the Jews is that they were a cat's paw. The whole point of Hitler picking the Jews was to use them as a scapegoat. Most people conveniently forget the rampant anti-Semitism that was ripping through that was ripping through Europe at the time. like shit through a goose. Everybody talks about the Germans as if they were unique in their hatred of the Jewish people. They were nothing special. The attitudes that Hitler was pandering to were perfectly normal, and sad to say, still are in many stretches of Europe. The whole racial identity thing was one thing, and the only reason he picked the Jews is because they were an easy target. The Jewish people were largely involved in the economics of Europe. Bankers, lenders, that kind of thing. And so Hitler took advantage of that, used uprooted a race issue, fanned the flames, and then used that to cook Europe's goose. He used their own bigotries as a tool for rising to power, but that was not all that the Nazis were about. The racial supremacy thing. They were National Socialists. I'm going to read a description of a political party. I'm going to read you their platform. All right? Let's see. Okay, we are going to read their platform. What they stand for, what they have tried to enforce through the law, through the government, rather.